Trouble is brewing in Trump land as the missile strike in Syria puts a big spotlight on a reported West Wing feud between chief strategist Stephen Bannon and senior advisor and Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner. Both men were inside the Mar-a-Lago Situation Room for Thursday's briefing on the Syria strikes. According to Gabriel Sherman of New York Magazine, Bannon had argued against the strike because it didn't advance Trump's America First doctrine, while Kushner and others argued that Trump needed to punish the Assad regime for its chemical weapons attack. And joining me now, former DNC Chair Howard Dean, Elizabeth Spears, former editor-in-chief of the New York Observer, and Kurt Bardella, president and CEO of Endeavor Strategies and a former Breitbart media consultant. Thank you all for being here. And on the other side of this, Kurt, you now have a lot of people quite angry about some of Kushner's role. The airstrikes produced a tweet storm from some of Donald Trump's more outre supporters, people on the alt-right and the far right. You had Paul Joseph Watson, who's one of these alt-righters, saying he's getting off the Trump train. You had Ann Coulter saying he told us he would be president of America, not the world. Could somebody show him the pictures of Americans raped and killed by illegals? Oh, Ann Coulter. You had Laura Ingraham saying missiles flying, Rubio's happy, McCain ecstatic, Hillary's on board, a complete policy change in 48 hours. What do you make of the Bannonite wing's reaction to Kushner's power?
Oh, I think it's very clear that they're very concerned that they're about to lose their link to the West Wing and their direct access to the president through Steve Bannon. Clearly, Steve is under siege right now. And you know, the fact that so many on that conservative right so forcefully came out against the actions of the president and the strikes in Syria, it just tells you how much trouble Steve actually really is in. If this were just a case of palace intrigue and jealousy and people just mouthing off to the press and there wasn't any substance to it, you wouldn't see this type of velocity in a reaction. But they are really going out there publicly hammering the Jared Kushner-aligned strategies, because I think they really see that Steve could really be in jeopardy and that he could be asked to leave at some point in the near future. And
you've seen also, to stay with you for a minute, Kurt, some of the language that you're starting to hear seep out of Bannon himself. Reports in the Daily Beast that he called Jared Kushner a cuck and a globalist behind his back, and said that the reason they can't work together is you're a Democrat, is what he supposedly growled to the New York Times. But this language of cuck and globalist, can you explain that to those who may be unfamiliar with the lingo?
Well, you're kind of getting these code words that those who are familiar with the alt-right and who read paid, platforms like Breitbart regularly, they know exactly what that means. And essentially it's that they're not with us, they're not one of us, they don't put America first, they have a different agenda that doesn't align with the alt-right, and they're the enemy. Those kind of coded words, they're done very, very deliberately. But moreover, you're just seeing what happens when you take somebody who's used to being a principal, who's used to being in charge and never being questioned, and when you ask him to serve at the pleasure of somebody else and to work in coordination with other people, it doesn't work. People like that don't know how to collaborate with people.
And Kurt, what do you think happens to Donald Trump's base of support if ultimately Bannon is pushed out?
Well, if Bannon is pushed out, you're going to see open warfare from the outside in. And all of a sudden, the pages of Breitbart, who have been incredibly generous to Donald Trump, to say the least, will start turning their fire on him, or at the very least start assigning blame, saying that Trump has betrayed the conservative right, the alt-right, because Jared Kushner and the liberal New York Democrats inside the White House have turned them against us. And you'll see open warfare. Yeah.
One of the sort of chilling tweets that you saw this week was from Richard Spencer, the known white supremacist, who said the following about Jared Kushner on Friday: "No one voted for Kushner. Indeed, many of us voted against people like Kushner having power." And one wonders what.
I'd like a two-second point about this.
That. Yeah.
I don't care. It doesn't matter what Breitbart says about Bannon leaving, because that diminishes Breitbart to the extent that nobody gives a damn.
Yeah, yeah. And their associations being in the White House is also chilling in and of itself. Thank you, Howard Dean and Elizabeth Spears. Kurt Bardella is going to be back in our next hour. And up next.